Hola estudiantes, this video is going to cover the grammar that's in the Para Empezar chapter, and there are 5 topics that we're going to review briefly. Present tense of irregular verbs, present tense of stem changing verbs, reflexive verbs, verbs that conjugate like gustar, and possessive adjectives. So let's begin. From page 3, the first thing we're going to look at are verbos irregulares. Remember that some verbs in Spanish are irregular in the first person singular. That's the yo form of the present tense. Look at the following examples. Please note that the other verbs you know that are conjugated like conocer are obedecer, ofrecer, and parecer. So because conocer goes to conozco, obedecer will be obedezco, ofrecer is ofrezco, and parecer is parezco. Here are some others that go irregular in the yo form. Dar is yo doy, hacer is yo hago, poner yo pongo, saber yo sé, salir yo salgo, traer yo traigo, ver yo veo, y caer yo caigo. Really quick, let's go through some definitions. Conocer means to know, dar means to give, hacer to do or to make, poner to put or to place, saber to know, salir to go out, to exit, traer to bring, ver to see, y caer to fall. Also, there are some verbs in Spanish that are irregular in all of the persons of the present tense. And those are ser, ir, decir, estar, oír, y tener. Let's go through the definitions. Ser, to be, ir, to go, decir, to say or to tell, estar, to be, oír, to hear, and tener, to have. And again, these verbs are irregular in all of the persons. The next concept we're going to look at is called presente de los verbos con cambios de raíz, o en inglés, stem changing verbs. The stem change occurs in all of the forms except for the nosotros and the vosotros forms. So we like to call these sets of verbs boot verbs because it kind of looks like a boot. So here are the present tense forms of perder, that's E to IE, poder, O to UE, and pedir, E to I. That means that inside of the boot, the changes happen. E goes to IE, O goes to UE, or E goes to I. It's important to note that perder, poder, and pedir are not the only verbs that do this. There are other verbs like perder, meaning that they all make this E to IE change. So for example, the verb empezar would be conjugated yo empiezo, tú empiezas, usted o ella empieza, nosotros empezamos, vosotros empezáis, y ustedes, ellos, ellas empiezan. This is a list of verbs that are like poder. So that means that all of these verbs are going to go O to UE, or in the case of jugar, U to UE. So for example, the verb almorzar would be almuerzo, almuerzas, almuerza, almorzamos, almorzáis, almuerzan. And this set of verbs work like pedir, meaning they go E to I. So a verb like servir would conjugate sirvo, sirves, sirve, servimos, servis, sirven. When you have verbs that have 2 E's, like repetir, it's the second E that changes to an I. The next concept that's covered in this chapter is called verbos reflexivos. In Spanish too, we learned these as the getting ready verbs. This is to say that people do something to or for themselves. So each reflexive verb has to have 2 parts, a pronoun, me, te, se, nos, or os, and a verb form. So for example, here are the forms of levantarse. Me levanto, te levantas, se levanta, nos levantamos, os levantáis, se levantan. Except for se, the reflexive pronouns are the same as the indirect object pronouns, and they usually come before the verb. But there are times when there's two verbs that they can be attached to an infinitive. So I can say me lavo la cara or voy a lavarme la cara. Also, when we're using reflexive verbs to talk about parts of the body or articles of clothing, I use the definite article. Remember, the definite articles are el, la, los, or las. So I don't say me pongo mi chaqueta. I say me pongo la chaqueta. Me cepillo los dientes. And I know that those belong to me because of the pronoun that was in the sentence. The next grammar that we're looking at from page 11 is called verbos que se conjugan como gustar, verbs that conjugate like gustar. These verbs use indirect object pronouns, which are me, te, le, nos, os, and les. And some other verbs that conjugate like gustar are encantar, gustar, obviously, importar, y interesar. So they all use the same construction. The indirect object pronoun comes first, then the verb, and then the subject. So for example, I might say something like, me gusta el fútbol. And really that kind of reads backwards because you're saying football is pleasing to me. Or, te interesan las pinturas? Which really is asking, are the paintings interesting to you? It helps me with these to remember that they read backwards from how I would say the sentence in English. So when you form these sentences, you'll either use the singular like gusta or the plural like interesan. And you have to make them agree with the subject. So fútbol, because it's singular, I conjugate gusta. And pinturas, because it's plural, I conjugate interesan. And then the me and the te that are at the front of the sentence are just indirect object pronouns to answer the question who. Well, football is pleasing to who? Oh, to me. Well, these paintings are interesting to who? To you. Next, we're going to talk about adjetivos posesivos. Possessive adjectives have to agree in gender and in number with the noun that they describe. So they don't agree in gender and number with the person that they belong to. They agree in gender and number with the noun they describe. Here are the possessive adjectives. For the singular, mi, tu, su, nuestro, nuestra, vuestro, vuestra. And for the plural, mis, tus, sus, nuestros, nuestras, vuestros, vuestras. And they have to agree with the thing that's being owned. So for example, if it was vuelo, flight, it could be my flight, our flight, his flight. It has to agree with the noun being described, in this case, flight. Or the word suitcases, maletas, my suitcases, our suitcases, your suitcases. So it doesn't matter who the owner is about the gender and number, it matters about the object or the noun being described. It gets a little tricky with su and sus because they can have so many meanings. That can mean that they belong to él or to usted or to ella. So we can use the prepositional phrase de and then a name or a pronoun just to clarify. So if I say sus pantalones son elegantes, I don't really know whose pants those are that are elegant. So I might ask, los pantalones de ella? Are they the pants belonging to her? And the person answered, no, los de usted, the pants of you, the pants belonging to you. So sometimes when we're using su and sus, it's really better to add the de and who it belongs to. So that was just a quick summary of the grammar of these 5 grammar concepts: present tense of irregular verbs, present tense of stem changing verbs, reflexive verbs, verbs that conjugate like gustar, and possessive adjectives. I encourage you to go back to this video or go back and read these pages if this was a difficult video for you to understand, especially on a particular concept. All right, hasta luego.